Good afternoon, this is Angela with Parker's Permaculture. I am up in the front yard of my Portland, Oregon permaculture garden. We are in zone 8B here. I thought I would make a really quick video to talk about a concept that I mention a fair amount in my videos, but this is a really good example of it in practice. So in permaculture, we are seeking to build soil fertility, right? We're seeking to increase biomass. Most of us, neighbors' brakes are really loud. Most of us have a lack of topsoil. We have a lack of humus. We have a lack of organic matter in our soil. Now here, I moved into this property 13 years ago, and this house is over 100 years old. And there used to be quite an extensive property here, including an orchard. But for many, many decades, there's just been lawn or weeds in the front, and before we made a garden here, weeds in the back. And the topsoil had been eroded and depleted, and there was no effort to build any fertility whatsoever. And so I spend most of my time in this garden working on enriching the soil, working on adding biomass, adding humus, building fertility. And in a permaculture system, we're seeking to have what's called a closed system, where we source everything on site and we deal with all waste on site. But sometimes when you start out with a garden that has no topsoil, my garden was just this like thick clay subsoil and then lots and lots of rocks that were brought in basically by glaciers. And so I didn't really have any topsoil to begin with. Again, decades and decades of a lawn that sucked all of the nutrition out of the soil and inhibited the growth of beneficial fungi. So helping build that soil fertility and heal the soil microbiome is a huge part of what I do. But when you start off with a system that's depleted, it's really difficult to set up that cycling that you need. So sometimes, instead of having a closed system initially, you need to start sourcing things from off-site. And for me, I use chip drop a lot. Now, before chip drop existed, I would just contact the electric utility, and when they were trimming around power lines, they would come dump for me. But as time has gone on, this business chip drop has been created, and they connect arborists with homeowners, and you get all these drops of wood chips, and I use loads and loads of wood chips as that free source of organic material that eventually breaks down and becomes soil. You can see behind me here, all of this is broken down wood chips that I am shoveling out of this area up here by the street and onto my beds, because it is now broken down. It's that rich, dark, organic matter that worms love, that fungi loves, that my plants love. So I have successfully built between 8 and 12 inches of that thick organic matter on top of that dense clay subsoil that I originally had over the last decade plus. But that process is still ongoing. So I thought I would talk about some ups and downs really quickly when you are looking at importing organic matter in order to build soil fertility and in order to import mulch that you may use in your garden. Let me flip the camera around. Here is a shot from across the street of my front yard. I'm going to be moving the farm stand over here after I finish this work, which will require getting the dolly out because it's quite heavy. So you can see that we don't have sidewalks in our part of Portland. And I have this area here, which used to be half of my driveway, which we took out and put in beds, and we're building a greenhouse here. There is a grape arbor behind the farm stand, and there's a path there up to my front step. Now, I'm gonna pause here while a car goes by. Hang on one second. Now, usually when you have a house, there are elements of the design or where it's situated in your community that you just can't change and can't avoid. For us, it's these power lines that overhang my driveway here. And that means when they come and dump the wood chips, a lot of the arborists are uncomfortable raising a boom and dropping chips here. So what happens is that wood chips typically get dumped here, and if you've seen in some of my past videos, they often spill out onto the street and I have to frantically shovel them off. I'm gonna walk across the street here back into my yard and show you. So this has become the repository for our wood chips, and I just get load after load after load after load. And then I move them around the garden, and they serve as mulch, which then composts in place and builds that soil fertility. Having all of these wood chips promotes a good amount of fungal growth in the soil. You really want that complex ecosystem that includes a diversity of fungi that your fruit trees are going to love. Remember, grass loves a bacterially dominated soil. A woodland / food forest likes a fungal dominated soil. And the way you promote the growth of those beneficial fungi is you utilize woody debris. So we've gotten tons and tons and tons of wood chips dumped over the years. And this originally was just a gravel road base. It was, you could see that we would get runoff from the rain. It would come across the street and I had this divot and water would kind of pool here. And I thought, well, we have these chunks of our driveway that got cut out to form that garden bed. I'm going to use them and create this berm here so that when the water runs across the street, it can collect down here and slowly sink into this front bed. And my thought was, well, that will reduce how much I have to water under this plum tree, etc., because I will capture the water down here and then it won't run into my foundation. But what I found was, as you can see, I used 2 blocks thick. What I found was that as wood chips got piled up here, and I would do a good job scraping them off, but you know, they would stick with a layer of mycelium and I wouldn't get them all quite shoveled up and put around the garden. This area got thicker. Let me back up so you can see. Got thicker and thicker and thicker of decomposing wood chips. So I had the fresh wood chips underneath, slightly older, and they get darker. And then eventually I would get this lovely, fluffy, broken down, can you see that? Woody debris. And I found that my little retaining wall here was pretty much completely buried. You can see down there, I had wood chips all the way up, almost to the top. So what I'm doing today is I'm removing all of that and I'm using that. That's fertility. And I'm not gonna let it go to waste where I'm not growing anything up here. I'm spreading it around my garden. So I've pulled back wood chips. I'm gonna put down the decomposed woody debris and then put fresh wood chips back on top. So I think I'm gonna get enough debris here. I'm gonna crouch down so you can see. I think I'm gonna get enough shoveling this all out here to restore the water flow and accumulation down here from across the street. Utilize that urban source of water that otherwise would be contributing to erosion or going down into my basement. And I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna build this up and create more of a wavy contour. My front yard was pretty darn flat and you can't really tell here, but in the back I have these mounds I have built up and some swales to channel and hold water around my fruit guilds. But this front yard bed right up by the street was still really flat. And so I'm gonna create this mound here and have it organically curve around this way. And that will provide some more visual interest in this front bed and also take all of that biomass, take all of that rich fertility from this area up by the street, which is just kind of a holding bay for wood chips, and it will put it around the plants, put it next to the roots of plants where they can use it. Thanks for watching today. I hope you will consider, when you are looking at adding to your garden, you will look first to the soil. You will look first to feeding the soil microbiome, to healing it, to bringing in that organic matter so that you can start your plants off with a good foundation. It's not just about the plants. It's not about fertilizing the plants. It's about building the soil itself. Please check out my Patreon down in the description. That's a great way you can support this channel.